And hello and welcome to another episode of the Double 18 podcast live stream. I am your host, Stephen Nagishi, and usually on Mondays we talk about the Bears. And I got to tell you, this past week was a very, very tough one. Yesterday the Bears, as you can see the title, suffering a meltdown in Detroit. With me, as always, is the Rashab Shakiri from the Windy City Productions on the YouTube. You could follow him and subscribe to his YouTube channel with all kinds of Bears content. Rashab, thanks. I know this is a very, very difficult night for both of us to be, to talk about what really happened yesterday.
Yeah, it definitely is. I made a video, like a ranting video right after the game, and I did not even want to think about the Bears like after the game ended, but I was like, I still got to record my video, so it was a rough time, man. I still cannot comprehend how we possibly blew that lead. Like at least with the Broncos game, there was like a whole half left where we blew that lead, but in this game we were down or we were up by 12 points with literally 3 minutes left in the game. Like you have to be really bad at your job to blow that type of lead with that little amount of time left.
Yeah, I tell you, I was pleasantly surprised just how good they played, basically for 55, 56 minutes. But, that's not where the game ends. You play a full 60 minutes. And unfortunately, the last 4 minutes, the Bears completely, as the title indicates, suffered a catastrophic meltdown, which we'll get to in a moment. But one of the storylines entering this game was certainly the narrative of the Justin Fields returning, and he has about 7 games to, save his season, if not his career, with the Bears. Certainly, that was the sentiment echoed by Matt Eberflus, Luke Getsy, and General Manager Ryan Poles. I know the response Matt Eberflus gave pissed off a lot of people because he's also have about 7 games to save his own ass. They're both unfortunately tied together for the next 7 games. But regarding yesterday, the way Justin Fields played as a runner and also as a passer, I was very encouraged. Certainly, a lot of us made blew it up about him learning something from Tyson Bagent, the comment made by Chris Collinsworth of NBC Sports when the Bears played the Chargers a couple of weeks ago, last month. It wasn't so far-fetched, and certainly the way he played yesterday, you could see that he was able to get rid of the ball quickly. I thought his footwork was exceptionally clean. Looked much better than what we've been seeing pretty much throughout this year. You had to be really, really encouraged by his performance yesterday, weren't you?
Yeah, it definitely was. I mean, I think it was probably his best performance of the year. Obviously, in the Commanders, he had better, statistical outings, but I really felt like in this game, you saw him look like a franchise quarterback. And I'm not saying that this means he's going to be a franchise quarterback for us. I'm not saying that means that we're not going to draft a quarterback this year, but in this one game sample size, Fields played pretty damn good. Like, you got to admit, even if you don't like him, like in this game against a really good defense on the road, with a hurting thumb. And, he also had a finger like bleeding throughout this game. So he was under some pain. And, obviously we know that the coaching staff we have is not a good coaching staff either. So like with a lot of things going against him, to go on the road and have the performance that he had as a passer in this game, in which, he was seeing the field pretty well. I feel like he was, taking his deep shots. He took a deep shot to DJ Moore in the second half, which I thought was a phenomenal throw, in which he stepped up in the pocket. I think it was 2nd and 20. He could have taken off running like he usually does, but he stepped up in that pocket. He, set his feet and delivered a really accurate ball to DJ Moore in the end zone, which was one of the best throws he's made probably in his entire career, in the NFL. So I thought that was a fantastic throw. He also made another throw on I think it might have been third down or, whatever down it was. He was extending the play to the right. And then again, instead of running, he found DJ Moore open on the sideline, which was a fantastic conversion on third down, right? So he made a lot of plays happen. There's also a play to Mooney, where, he's rolling out to his left and kind of like a throw in between traffic, which, I feel like we haven't seen these types of throws out of Justin Fields since the Matt Nagy year. Like the rookie year under Matt Nagy, he attempted some of these throws. And, in the last game, we definitely saw him more, attempt more of those like tight window throws, down the field throws. Like, and he also got rid of the ball super fast. Like he only got sacked 2 times. One of those sacks came at the last, in the last play. So he definitely did a good job in terms of pocket awareness, in terms of seeing the field. And if he has 6 more performances like this, I think the Bears have to keep him if he continues playing like this.
Yeah, there's no question. I think the performance he put on yesterday kind of separated himself from the narrative that he and Matt Eberflus are somewhat tied together. And the way he performed, he sets himself apart versus the coaching malpractice that we saw on display by Matt Eberflus and his entire coaching staff, both on offense and defense. Certainly, the numbers, passing yards. Certainly, I know a lot of people are complaining about, but I'm not one of those people. He ran 108 yards on 18 carries. Some of it certainly was by a design and by his choice. And I didn't like the fact that he was taking hits, illegal hits, as well as the somewhat illegal hits that he was taking as he was running or as he was sliding down. But the refs, as usual, didn't call any penalties, which is really, really starting to get annoying as well. But yeah, I really like Justin. I want him to succeed. You and me. I think everybody wants him to succeed as well. So for me, this game was a really right step in the direction. The first step in the right direction. Excuse me. Next 6 games, you want to see him perform, build up on this performance. I can't have him regress next week. Going up against the Minnesota Vikings, the same Minnesota Vikings that that he suffered an injury 4 weeks ago. The same Vikings that likes to blitz a lot. The same Vikings team that the Bears look absolutely horrendous following a Thursday night win against Washington. That was something that was very, very encouraging, but just completely crashed and really lost any faith in Matt Eberflus from that point on, unfortunately. And yeah, so this is going to be a very interesting test on a Monday Night Football that Justin Fields has to certainly must be thinking about the injuries he suffered. That's probably on his mind as well. But, whatever happened, it happened. He has to shake that off and, has to face a bigger challenge where he has to probably see 60, 70, some of the blitzes that, Brian Flores likes to do. We certainly saw a little bit of that in the last time the Bears played the Vikings up in, Chicago. So let's hope that the Bears can do a similar favor against the Vikings on a Monday night. The other thing that the thing that stood out the most, Rashab, is the, as I said earlier, coaching malpractice. We saw plenty of it yesterday, and look, I think this game was supposed to be the breakthrough game that we wanted to see. Not just for Justin Fields, but for Matt Eberflus, it would have certainly helped his case to say we are finally heading in the right direction. And ironically, it could have come against the same Detroit Lions team, the same team that beat the Bears when the Bears blew a 2-touchdown lead almost a year ago, if you remember, in Soldier Field. And from that point on, the Lions have been on an upward trajectory. They are 14-4 coming into the game. They're now 15-4 since that game, where the Bears lost pretty much the entire game and all the games in 2023, and we're stuck at 3-8 right now. So, give me your of all the coach malpractice that we saw yesterday from Matt Eberflus and entire coaching staff. What pissed you off the most?
Yeah, I think it was a defense on the final 2 drives because it was a very obviously prevent style defense, which I do understand to some extent because you were up by 12 points and a lot of coaches in that, in that part of the game would kind of go conservative. But if you are Matt Eberflus, like what you were doing beforehand was working a lot. Like you were getting guys in Jared Goff's face. So like being a little bit more aggressive, I feel like would have been a better approach at the end just to like get that one final interception to maybe ice the game instead of just letting him easily go down the field very, very fast. I know Eddie Jackson messed up at the end also on a slightly blown coverage, which ended up being a very, very fast touchdown. But that defense,
that was also where Jalen Johnson was also involved. Basically neither one of them was in the right spot at that time. So.
Yeah, and also Tremaine Edmonds missed a tackle. Not
sure. Yeah,
oh
my God. That one play before Tremaine Edmonds failed to wrap up, they gain a first down, and then the next play they scored a touchdown. So I was really pissed about that was
massive because that saved them from having to take a timeout and push them down the field as well. So I do think the defense was the main thing, especially for being a defensive-minded head coach. Your defense allowed 14 points, 15 points in back-to-back drives when the entire game you had been shutting out this offense. So that's completely unacceptable that you could not close out the game like that. But also, being so conservative in the second half, which I know some people are blaming Luke Getsy for that, but at the end of the day, Matt Eberflus is the head coach, so he gets a final say on whether to go for it on a 4th down. And in the second half, there was a bunch of, maybe not a bunch, there was like 2 different 4th and 1s, which I feel like we should have probably went for maybe just because, we've been having success, going for it on 4th and 1s, 3rd and 1s with the tush push and, other short yardage that we've been having a lot of success with that. So instead of, going for those crucial 4th and 1s, which according to ESPN's analytics, like that took away, I think his decisions on fourth down to not go for it cost the Bears 10% in win probability due to the stats. And I know that Ryan Poles is a big like analytics guy. He even helped the Bears make their first analytics team, and your head coach still does not even believe in the analytics that you apparently believe in. So I thought that, whole conservative approach in the second half was really the reason why the Bears lost this game, because if we just kept on, stepping on the gas, if we let Fields throw a little bit more in the second half and maybe score another touchdown, this game easily could have been out of reach. So, Matt Eberflus, we already know he's a coach that plays not to lose games instead of playing to win games like Dan Campbell did, and that was very, present in this game.
Yeah, I just didn't understand the that 2 field goals in the 4th quarter, 4th and 1 on that very early in the 4th quarter. 4th and 1, or at least that was that the one that the refs kind of gave a very weird spot there.
Yeah,
I just didn't understand that
first down. Yeah, if you look on TV, it clearly seems like Fields, body was above the marker. So yeah, that was kind of a bad call. But we should have challenged that then, because you're allowed to challenge the spot.
I was going to say that. Yeah. I just don't understand Matt Eberflus being so goddamn passive during games, which really pisses me off, because you're supposed to give the ball in the hands of Justin Fields. You have been very, very, terse in your response about him having 7 games is more than enough to prove himself. Okay? Well, then if you want him to prove himself, and that was a sentiment echoed by Luke Getsy and Ryan Poles as well, why aren't you why aren't you giving him the ball? You've already converted 2 4th downs early in the game and was successful in those situations. You're only up 20-14. You should have at least gone for 2 to make it a 1 touchdown game instead of just a 1, touchdown. And you just settle for a field goal, there, early in the fourth quarter. Again, your defense, I understand, was playing very, very lights out. They get the ball back, and then they settle for another field goal. So that's a two position game became only a two position, and I can't stress this enough because that was the sentiment that was being echoed by many within the Chicago area. I'm sure, if you listen to 670 The Score or ESPN Chicago throughout the day, you only made it two position games, by kicking two field goals back to back. So that kind of backward thinking is what really makes us all angry and just so apathetic, because the coach, again, just doesn't have a situational awareness to challenge the flag rather than just accept it. We've seen a bad, NFL referees this year, blowing calls and stuff like that, and this was no exception. If you feel like, it's wrong, why don't you challenge it? Why are you keeping those damn timeouts and use them at a time when you're like, why are you using a timeout? Why are you keeping timeouts at a moments like this? So, yeah, that's another thing that really pissed me off, Rashad.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And I'm also kind of worried that nobody on the Bears sideline or nobody in the box even told Eberflus that, hey, you should probably challenge this, right? Usually you have a person out there that's saying, oh, you should probably challenge this because it looks like it might be overturned. So that's also on Matt Eberflus, though, for not having the, staff in place to warn him of, a challenge that could have, potentially been successful for the Bears. So I think that's another thing we have to talk about Eberflus, that like he's also built such a bad staff. He's, had two coordinators he's had to fire because of I don't even know what, like apparently like, this HR.
Talking about Alan Williams resigning?
Yeah. Like Matt Eberflus was the guy that brought these guys in. Also, our running backs coach also had to be dismissed due to some HR violations. So
both, I think both Williams and Walker was literally, I think, well, Williams left, resigned.
We all know the real reason. Like
under a very suspicious situations, and Walker was fired because, after probably multiple human resource violation. When you get human resources involved in anything, it's a bad look. And you're the head coach. You should have at least been notified about what was happening. Okay, you're the man who brought these two people on board onto your coaching staff. That's not a good look, no matter how you slice it. So, yeah, again, this is a problem with the Bears coaches. They put together an incredibly bad coaching staff. We remember what happened with Matt Nagy. He gave up a play call. We give it to Bill Lazor, I believe.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Bill Lazor, a man who was basically unemployed, a coach, as when Matt Nagy hired him, and it was just a bad stuff that we've witnessed. Even the Mark Trestman era, we had Mel Tucker as the defensive coordinator, but certainly it wasn't just Mel Tucker, but the Bears defense was just basically really, really starting to age and was falling off, unfortunately. But Mel Tucker gets the blunt of the blame for what happened in those 2 years under Mark Trestman. So, yeah, the Bears coaching staff has been a massive problem. We mentioned Luke Getsy has been a real problem. The way he calls offense, the way we saw today. He certainly, again, didn't allow Justin Fields to be put in a position to succeed, especially in the fourth quarter. If you're going to do run RPO, on the next to last drive when, the Bears ran 3 plays and went 3 and out in just 15 seconds or so, you ran the ball straight up the middle with Khalil Herbert handing it off and just basically gained nothing. When I think, you should have called a run play for Justin that was working successfully. They were crashing in the middle. So at least you could have just let him loose on the side and probably gained maybe 5-6 yards to make it a manageable 3rd and 5 or 4. And then the 2 failed run plays, we saw Justin Fields rip it. Tyler Scott had beaten his defender, and then somehow inexplicably he slowed down. We witnessed how it happened, and then just the ball went through his outreaching hands. That was kind of like a metaphor for what was going to happen, because certainly the Bears had the lead, and then there's just the game just went by them. It was kind of a fitting. What we saw with Scott unable to corral the ball, just went through his arms, as did the Bears, who had a 26-14 lead with about 4 minutes left in a ball game and just couldn't close the deal. So I'm trying to figure out. You saw that Tyler Scott play, and I know people were complaining that the DJ Moore was open on the flat or something, even though he had a strong safety, I think, covering him, by the stick area. Do you like that play, or do you feel like maybe there could have been something else that was more plausible in your opinion?
I mean, honestly, I do like the play because if it hit, which it should have, Tyler Scott was the only reason why it didn't work. We all would have been calling it a good play, and we would have been saying, "Oh, Justin Fields, what a dagger of a throw!" In crunch time. Like, I think it was only inches away from actually working, and Tyler Scott was the only reason why this play didn't actually work. So, to some extent, though, I would have liked to see us go a little bit, more shallow route. Like obviously DJ Moore, he was not really open there, but maybe if we have more routes, going a little bit not as deep, so maybe it's easier to hit those routes. That might have been a little bit better, but I still can't complain about the play call or the decision, because it would have worked if the rookie just did not slow down and look for the ball before the ball actually hit him. And Tyler Scott's abilities in game so far has been a little bit concerning, because he's had some drops. He had a fumble last game. He could not catch the ball here to ice the games. So I'm honestly not very high on Tyler Scott going forward. I mean, he was only a mid-round pick, so it doesn't matter, what he is. He's only like a depth guy, right? So,
right. He even had a in the punt return early in the game. Remember, don't forget that too. So
obviously, I know a lot of people are talking about this play, but I still believe Fields made the right call.
Yeah, let's listen in on Matt Bowen, who is a well-respected analyst who happens to be living and residing locally and known on ESPN. Let's listen in on this one.
A lot of discussion right now on Justin Fields' decision to throw the deep ball late in the game versus Detroit. So let's take a real look at it on the tape. First thing to focus on, pre-snap motion. That is a coverage indicator for Fields. When Mooney motions inside of this bunch set, his coverage bumps inside as well. And here's your man matchup versus DJ Moore, which we will get back to. Look at the safeties. Pre-snap, split field alignment. But post-snap, we're going to spin. Boundary safety drops down. Field safety works to death. And here's Tyler Scott, top of the screen, your man matchup versus the press corner. Now I'm going to roll the tape. I'm going to freeze it about right here. Okay, this is a mesh concept from the Bears. Running back released underneath, DJ Moore on the crosser. Look at his coverage. He gets caught up in the wash. But remember, we talked about that boundary safety spinning down. See how his shoulders are turned? He's in a position, and he's taught to do this, to drive or to cut the crosser. Now, could Fields throw this football to DJ Moore? Absolutely. Take your chances on DJ Moore catching the football underneath and beating this safety to get a first down. Look at Tyler Scott at the top of the screen. He is stacked on top of the defensive back, putting that defender in a trail position. He's in a position to separate down the field. And remember, that field side safety, he's got a long way to go to make a play on a vertical shot. And this is an alert for Justin Fields. If you have the deep ball and you like the matchup, take the shot down the field. And simply put, you have to finish this play to go win the football game.
Yep.
Well, yeah, that was it. As I was explaining, I know some people were complaining that DJ Moore was open, but Matt Bowen explained that the safety was closing in. So you had to, kind of like take a gamble and hoping that, as he explained, Moore would catch the ball and then just turn upfield while being a safety that was closing in, which I think a lot of people would have complained, because then the opposite can be said. If DJ Moore doesn't get the first down, we would have said, well, Tyler Scott was open. Why didn't he throw it there? Right? So you can't go both ways in this one. So again, this unfortunately, is on the feet of Tyler Scott, who I know somebody was calling him Velus Jones with a higher draft pick or whatever, or like a, at least
far,
who can do, yeah. But this was a tough one.
If he can't turn his play around, he's on his way to being Velus Jones. With how much he struggled so far.
Exactly. I do like Tyler Scott. I think he has shown at least he can, make some plays here and there. We witnessed him do well against the Raiders when Tyson Bagent was making his professional debut. But that is not a good look on Tyler Scott. For some inexplicable reasons, he decided to slow down. And again, that's a question, that needs to be posed to the coaching staff. Who's coaching him to do something like this? When you're a rookie, you have to make every opportunity count. And this is going to stick out like a sore thumb, unfortunately, for, Tyler Scott. Next time when, Fields thinks about throwing it to him, but, you have to make every opportunity counts. So, hopefully Scott learned.
I do want to add, sorry to interrupt you, but I want to add one thing. I think Mooney should have been running that route, though, right? Like Mooney has ran that same route in the past against the Giants. He had that same route he ran, which he caught that ball. So I don't understand why the coaching staff didn't put Mooney on that same route that Tyler Scott had, right? Because it was kind of like a stick concept, and would have been a lot better if we had Mooney going down the field. Would have been a lot more reliable.
Right, that's true. I think, and that's another question: why you're asking a rookie to make a big play like that when he hasn't, exactly proven himself, and the coaching staff hasn't really giving Scott the opportunity to do so either. So there's a lot of a contradiction where we're seeing the player who hasn't proven himself versus a coaching staff who doesn't do enough to coach them up. So it's a very, very bad mix of a lack of coaching and lack of player development that we're seeing right now, unfortunately. So, going back to the game itself, Rashab, I just feel that, the defense really took a good step, creating 4 turnovers. And when you create that many turnovers, you're supposed to win games. You had 4-1 advantage on turnovers. I was really, really impressed. Tyreek Stevenson, he was one of the players that I wrote in my recent article on beargoggleson.com that, Justin Fields isn't the only guy who has to, show up in the next 7 games. I think this was kind of a discussion we had in our last, stream. He had to show up, and, he finally showed up. He had a nice pick. That was somewhat, caused when Sam Laporta ran into Jaquan Brisker. That could have been called for, illegal hit or, pass interference, whatever. But just somehow, went into Stevens' hand and he corralled it. He also had a nice special teams heads up play when, the Lions took it out of the end zone and then just knocked the guy out and loosened up the ball. And, the Bears recovered there. So, I really like what I saw from, Tyreek Stevenson. TJ Edwards also had a, interception. The ball was tipped and, by Javon Dexter that went into his, I'm sorry, that wasn't that. That wasn't that one. That was a Tremaine Edmonds interception that Javon Dexter knocked the ball, out of his hands, when Jared Goff threw the ball. And also TJ Edwards has been, lights out. He had a terrific game once again. Unfortunately, because of the way the defense folded down the stretch, we don't get to talk about just how dominant the Bears defense was throughout the ball game, right?
Yeah, it's kind of a shame, like you said. I mean, they definitely played their best game of the entire year, and their best game, I would say, under Coach Eberflus probably until the last 4 minutes of the game. And you can't just throw out the last 4 minutes of the game because they were terrible on those last 2 drives. But Yeah, I mean, they were making Jared Goff look like the 2018 version of Jared Goff, in which our defense completely destroyed him. I mean, it was kind of shaping up to be a similar performance in which Jared Goff threw multiple terrible interceptions. He really could not see the field very well. We were getting pressure in his face pretty well. I mean, I wouldn't say the pass rush was amazing. Still, like, we could still use a better pass rusher on the opposite side of Montez Sweat. But in this game, I think DeMarcus Walker actually got a handful of pressures. So, DeMarcus Walker probably had his best game as a Bear in this game. Montez Sweat had a sack in which he was chasing down Jared Goff running off to the side, and he got his first sack as a member of the Bears. And the secondary was playing very physical and very well as well. I mean, they were tackling super well. They were holding up in coverage. Bunch of interceptions, obviously, like you mentioned, and stellar linebacker played too. So, yeah, I mean, if the Bears defense keeps on playing like this, like, we do have something special in the future. Now, I don't think it's going to be with Eberflus coaching them. It's probably going to be with the different defensive coordinator, but I do think we have enough talent now on the defense, which if we do bring in, a different good defensive mind, to be our DC, like, we could have a top 10 defense as soon as next year if we do make, another acquisition at edge rusher, maybe add another safety, because I don't think Eddie Jackson is staying next year, unfortunately. This probably is Eddie Jackson's last year as a member of the Chicago Bears. But yeah, I mean, the Lions offense was ranked number 4 in the NFL entering this game, and we only allowed, 15 less than 15 points for a vast majority of the game. So that was very, very impressive for sure.
Yeah, defense has been taking a nice improvements under Matt Eberflus. Say what you will about him as a head coach, but the run defense has been stout. The only thing we needed to see was more sacks, more pressures, and turnovers. We saw plenty of turnovers, thankfully, but again, the sacks were still a bit lacking. Montez Sweat finally got his first sack as a Bear. There was a great play where he stayed with Jared Goff on a play action and just basically caught up with him and just sacked him for an 8-yard loss, and that really got me excited. Finally we saw him. We've been seeing him making impactful plays ever since he joined the Bears. The first 2 games with the Saints and, last week with the Carolina, he was, just all over the field, and now he finally got his sack. And then Jack Sanborn came off the blitz and just, sacked Jared Goff. I believe this was in the third quarter as well. So, we're starting to see a little bit of that. And, hopefully, the Bears defense, unfortunately, like I said, they folded like a cheap suit in the end, because despite all of their, impactful plays and efforts, once again, they just keep calling that Tampa 2 zone defense, where they just sit back and allow plays to develop in front of it. And then even worse, they can't tackle shit. So once, whether a tight end or a running back makes a screen play, they can't tackle. They can't prevent the player from moving forward, because they tackle so poorly. They can't wrap up the players. They just keep going and moving forward, and they ended up getting first downs. And we witnessed that on the last 2 drives in the ball game. They were either completely out of positions, or again, they were just basically, poor tackling doomed them. So, again, what was supposed to be a breakthrough win for both Matt Eberflus and Justin Fields, unfortunately, we're going to remember this game as, the one that Matt Eberflus coaching malpractice game, which surprisingly, we remember what happened against the Denver Broncos, last month, I believe, when they blew a 28-7 lead. You thought that game was bad. This game is probably even worse in the eyes of, some people. Don't you think?
Yeah, it definitely is, because in that Broncos game, there was still a lot of time left in the game when we went up by 21 points. Like, I think we went up by 21 points in early third quarter, I think. So there's still almost 30 minutes left in the game, and that was still an inexcusable comeback to be allowed. But I think according to ESPN stats, we had a 98% chance of winning the game with 3 minutes left.
Right.
Like, there's only a handful of coaches in the NFL that can blow a lead like that. Like, you need to have everything go wrong for your team. Literally every single thing went wrong for the Bears in those final 3 minutes, which again is a sign of a bad coaching staff. I was also seeing on Twitter that apparently Matt Eberflus in his 1.5 years with the Bears, he has 4 of the worst leads 4 of the worst blown leads in Chicago Bears history. Like 4 out of the top 50 worst leads that we've blown were blown by this head coach. And you can see on the screen right there, like Sylvie posted about how no team lost a game in which they 3+3 turnover margin and 40-minute time of possession. Like no other team besides, Chicago Bears lost that game. So very disappointing, obviously, and it was an absolute choke job. I mean, choke job is an understatement for how badly the Bears messed this up.
Right. You had that lead late into the ball game, and you play prevent defense, and you coach to lose instead of going for wins. It's a polar opposite of what we saw, with the Dan Campbell on the opposite end of the the sideline with the Detroit Lions. And it's unfortunate that the Chicago Bears are now the Detroit Lions of old. We are in a way the new Lions. When the Lions were just couldn't get their out of their way, they were constantly blowing leads, losing games, just a poor leadership, and on the coaching staff as well as the front office. And the Detroit Lions are finally heading in the right direction now, and we're just literally getting dusted, and and continue to fall behind the likes of the Lions, the Vikings, who have gotten their ship right until yesterday when they lost to the Broncos on Sunday Night Football. And and I said this before, and I'll say it again, Rashab, and you'll definitely have your thoughts on this. Coaching does matter in this league, and it is more more inevitable. When the Houston Texans are 6-4 with rookie CJ, well, Jesus Christ, I forgot the last name. CJ
Stroud.
CJ Stroud, thank you very much. CJ Stroud is the rookie quarterback, and he only has a handful of receivers. One being a rookie, Tank Dell, who's a diminutive receiver out of the University of Houston, is the one that's making plays. And DeMeco Ryans a defensive coordinator, but a former player and somebody who understands the game, who can relate to the players, because he was a star player who unfortunately whose career was cut short by the injury. You have Antonio Pierce, who completely changed the mood and the morale of the Las Vegas Raiders. They're 2-0 right now. Again, Pierce is a former player himself, who played and won a Super Bowl, I believe, with the Giants, if I'm not mistaken. So, you have people who can relate on a even level with the players. And, those who play, I'm not saying those who never played in the NFL or those who've never coached in the NFL isn't qualified to be in the NFL by any stretch of the imagination. But if you listen to Matt Eberflus talk and, constantly pointing a finger at the players for the lack of execution and not taking more ownership and accountability on his own and from his coaching staff, what are you doing, right?
Yeah, I mean, you brought up good points. Like, rookie coaches around this league, like you can tell instantly if they're a good coach or not. Most times, obviously, with Matt Nagy, we were kind of hoodwinked into thinking he was a good coach because he had that first good year. After that, he fell back down to earth. But Matt Eberflus, even last year, like even though like us as fans, we were kind of saying, oh, he's tanking on purpose, like, oh, he's probably throwing these games on purpose. No, he actually sucked at coaching. That's why we lost all those games last year. Like, and this year, even though we're supposed to be winning some football games, he's still losing games because he has no idea how to manage a game. He has no idea how to close a game. His players are probably not believing in his message anymore. either. So yeah, I think the NFL is the one league where coaching is the biggest thing that leads to success. Like in the other leagues, like baseball, NBA, I feel like it's more player driven, but in the NFL, it's definitely more scheme and more coaching driven because everything is a chess match. And if you have a smarter chess player, you're probably going to win the chess match. So yeah, it's very embarrassing. And I also do want to talk about how Eberflus, doesn't take any accountability either, like some other coaches do. I know you have the video on the screen right here of Robert Schmitz talking about it, but yeah, like Eberflus in his presser today, like still did not take any level of accountability for his bad coaching. He said that the players need to execute better, which yeah, that's true to some extent. The players could have played a lot better, but you as a head coach also have been screwing your players over. And he has never said once that, oh, I messed up as a head coach, or, oh, we have to coach better as a staff. So yeah, he just does not take any level of accountability.
Yeah, it is. It sucks because listening to him, it just makes your blood boil, and it really doesn't do you any good. I'm going to play a clip of Robert Schmitz about him making fun of Eberflus bragging about himself. Take a listen.
What specifically should you have handled differently yesterday as the game fell apart?
In what respect?
Your respect, as far as coaching. I mean, you are looking at film, you're trying to analyze, you want players to watch film and then extract lessons from what went wrong. Sure. So from your standpoint, last 4 or 5 minutes, or maybe the fourth quarter at large.
Yeah, I mean,
we've handled differently.
Yeah, you always look at things. You always look and say, hey, should I call this? Should I call that? Should I be more aggressive here? Less aggressive there. It's like when you have the end of the half at the New Orleans game, right? They went, I think it was 3 and out or maybe 4 and out. That was good execution by the players. It was good calling by the whoever this coordinator was. And that would be me. And then if it was at the end of the game, for the Carolina game, to seal the deal in the game, there was some good calls and good execution. And that's what it comes down to. You got to have the right calls and put your guys in position. And for the Carolina game, we did that. We went 3 and out right there at the end there. Those last 3 plays, they decided to kick for a field goal. They missed it. And then we sealed the deal on offense with a nice 3rd down and 7, I believe it was, to Mooney. And again, so it's really about that. It's about putting guys in position, and it's about making plays as a player.
Did you listen to him praising his own self? I'm going to hear
if it was at the end of the game. Good execution, and that's what it comes down to.
He was literally praising the coordinator who was calling that defense, which he realized it was about him. Man, what a moron!
He's an absolute idiot, man. Like I've legit never seen this in my life as a Bears fan. Like even Matt Nagy, he never like hyped himself up that much. Obviously he had his own issues too, but like I've never seen a coach this confident in being a loser, which is what Eberflus is.
I know. I know you were pretty harsh on him, when you were criticizing him, and rightfully so, because I can't sit here and just and pretend that this is somehow passable. And I want you to listen to another one here. This is, I want you to think of what do you think of this comment here made by Justin? Here we go.
Going back to Justin and that conservative play calling in the fourth quarter, you guys have said that part of your evaluation of him is seeing him operate the offense in 2-minute drills and the game situations. How do you guys get a full evaluation of him as a quarterback if you aren't letting him throw the ball in those clutch situations?
Yeah, I mean, like the last play we talked about, right, with the crosser to DJ and he threw it over top. I mean, that would have been a spectacular play if we connected on that, and we were right there. We just got to do a good job of executing in that moment. And that's what we're talking about as a group, taking accountability is offense, defense, and kicking, about finishing, the right way. And we have to do that.
So here's a comment made by a Twitter handle, Justin Fields FC fan club. So let me get this straight. Matt Eberflus is blaming Justin Fields for not converting on 3rd and long after 2 atrocious play calls, which was the Khalil Herbert handoff that went nowhere. How the hell is he still employed? Is that how you took what he just said, in your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, he basically is blaming the players. I mean, maybe he didn't mean to blame Justin Fields specifically, but he's always saying, "Oh, the players should execute better," and never pointing the finger at himself and saying that, "Oh, I messed up as a coach. We could have made a better call here. We could have made a better call there." Like to this day, in the 1.5 years he's been the head coach of the Bears, like anytime a reporter asks him, could you have made a different call there? He never answers that question straight up. He's like, "Oh no, the players should have been executing better." So I mean, he's a complete coward for not taking any level of responsibility. And I know that sounds harsh, obviously, but it's the truth. Like, as a head football coach of any team in the NFL, you have to be able to blame yourself and take accountability for bad coaching, even if it is a player's fault. And Matt Eberflus right now, as I tweeted earlier today, like has no interest in doing that because he knows deep down he's gone from this team and he's probably never going to be a head coach ever again.
Yeah, who would have thought that, as a Bears fan, and we've gone through so many bad coaches even before leading up to Matt Eberflus. We have Mark Trestman, John Fox, Matt Nagy, and now Matt Eberflus. And, all of them are very, very bad. There's no question about it. We can't sugarcoat any of the coaches that we've had before Matt Eberflus. And, we all know Mark Trestman, he threw players under the bus, and the team completely melted down in 2014. That led to him being fired, along with general manager Phil Emery. This is that kind of level bad, right? Trestman was bad, but Matt Eberflus is making Mark Trestman look like Vince Lombardi. I know it sounds a bit exaggerated, but it is that bad.
It is, yeah. I mean, I'd say it's on the same level. Like, I wouldn't say like he's that much worse than Trestman because Trestman also is really bad. But in terms of winning percentage, yeah, he is worse. Like, at least Trestman won some games in his first year. He won 8 games, I think, in his first year. Second year, obviously, it fell apart. And under Mark Trestman, we had more fighting in the locker room and stuff like that. Like Brandon Marshall had some disputes back then. We had the whole incident of eventually in 2014, like Jay Cutler got benched too, which was a big national story. I remember. So, it was bad back then too, but like, it's like saying like which trash is like stinkier. Like both of them are bad. Like they're both trash. So, I don't think Eberflus is going to be here for much longer. And he is without a doubt going to be one of the worst head coaches in Chicago Bears history if he is not able to turn the season around. Even if he is able to, win some games here down the stretch, his record still is going to be really bad regardless. So, I don't think he's staying after this season is over.
Yeah. And then somehow, I know a lot of people on Twitter, not many, but some tweeted about how they wish, Matt Nagy was still coaching or something. That's the kind of impact Matt Eberflus has, not only on the organization, but also the fan base who've had enough with some of the bad coaching. And, it just keeps, the tradition just continues. And, I definitely want to see, a wholesale change. And, we talked about Matt, Adam Johns, his column on The Athletic about 7 predictions, in which, he got a lot of flack for predicting Matt Eberflus being back. And of course, Ryan Poles backed him up, which I think, he must be having some second thoughts or buyer's remorse about endorsing him after, before a complete meltdown, yesterday. And then, it's just a horrible look right now. And Albert Breer on Monday Morning QB, I believe, said that he was answering a question from a Bears fan about if there's any changes coming, with Jim Harbaugh being a head coach or not. And he did say something about there is a chance of major changes incoming. With Albert Breer's tweet that Kevin Warren wants to shape this organization to his liking. And Kevin Warren has you've been hearing a lot of grumbling about the way things are, and what is exactly mindset right now, as he continued to go through this the process of evaluation. And who you want to believe? it's up to everybody. Whether you're a local guy who wants to believe in Johns because he's as connected to the Bears as anybody on the beat, or you want somebody with a national perspective, somebody who is well connected all over the league like Albert Breer. That's up to you. But again, with what we discussed, with the Lions game in today's press conference, how can anybody else have the audacity to say, yeah, Matt Eberflus deserves another year? Because there is going to be a huge mutiny, from the fan base and the fan or the players who are just fed up with the coaches, led by Matt Eberflus, who continues to blame them for the execution. And the counter argument to that, of course, Rashad, is that you're the damn head coach. You're the leader of all men. If you're going to complain about the execution, you're the one who is responsible for making them do that. And if the message is not resonating, something is wrong with you as a head coach in the way you present yourself and where you converse and communicate with them. We all know people like that in real life. We dealt with that. Colleagues, bosses. I had to leave one job because my boss was just a total an show in terms of accountability and leadership, and it was affecting me mentally, to be honest with you. And I'm glad I made that change. People like Matt Eberflus has a very bad vibe, and have a negative impact on people and then the players, because at some point the players are going to can't tolerate no more when you're constantly harping on execution. But when you're a head coach, you're the one who is supposed to make sure that doesn't happen again. And it keeps happening again and again. And he keeps making that excuses every single game in the post game conferences. I'm tired of him.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, you said it best. I mean, he just does not have any level of accountability. And if if your leader does not blame himself ever, if he always blames you, at some point you're going to stop listening to this message and you're not going to be motivated to even, work for him, which is, I think, what's going to happen really soon with the Bears if Eberflus does stay. Now, I know you brought up the Johns report, which I'm sure he, obviously he has sources. I'm not saying he's lying or anything, but I just don't think there's any chance Eberflus is coming back, because I don't expect the Bears to win many games down the stretch. Like if they went on a winning streak, then I could maybe see Eberflus coming back, because maybe they could have been saying, oh, he's building something, right? Like something is clearly working now, but there's no winning streak happening anytime soon, probably, right? So I think that with Kevin Warren coming here, especially, like Kevin Warren demands excellence. Like with the Vikings, he helped turn around the Vikings from a football point of view too, like not just a stadium for the Vikings, but he also, helped hire people with the Vikings. And the Vikings have been one of the best teams, honestly, in the last decade plus. I know they don't have a Super Bowl win, but surely a lot more successful than the Chicago Bears have been. So I just don't see any way in which Eberflus is coming back with his team. And if he is back, like I might not even watch any games next year, right? Because that's how pissed I would be if they bring this bad head coach back.
Exactly. I think a lot of people should cancel their season tickets to send a message. We've made that same mistakes with John, bringing back John Fox after going 3-13, and we all know John Fox was basically mailing it in and just doing it for the money. So you don't want to make that similar mistakes. Hiring an outdated an older defensive coordinator who just doesn't have the self-awareness or in tune with today's NFL games. So this is what Albert Breer answered in the question from a Bears fan. What are the chances that the Bears will move on from Eberflus at the end of the season? If so, would Jim Harbaugh be a potential candidate? So here's his answer. Nate, I say the chances that Bears president Kevin Warren wants to remake the football operation and maybe more intimately involved in it after the season are strong. So I think it probably take a late season surge from the Bears to get Matt Eberflus a third season. So with 7 games left, he failed yesterday, and that's going to leave a very bad impression, hopefully in the minds of both Kevin Warren and Ryan Poles. Poles certainly was in attendance yesterday up in Detroit. And, we'll probably skip the part about the Jim Harbaugh and then the fit there. But Yeah, I just hope that the changes are coming, and even if the Bears pick up a win, here and there in the next, 6 games left, including a bye, I just don't want the Bears organization to be duped into thinking that they are heading in the right direction because winning those 2 games or late in the season are the reasons why the Bears are where they are. They could just basically lose out and missed out on high picks because we picked up cheap wins here and there in the past years, and then that's actually polluted the minds of higher executives, Ted Phillips and George McCaskey, that these men deserve another year, which is utterly ridiculous because the coaches that they are continuously hiring are basically a reflection of what the organization, and especially what George McCaskey it looks like, just a bland old dude, and just basically have no football awareness and keenness, and just doesn't have the leadership to make tough decisions. And that's also reflected on the coaches that they have hired in the past. Matt Nagy, John Fox, and Mark Trestman, and now Matt Eberflus. Basically, everybody who just doesn't, maybe an okay coordinator or a coach that's probably on their final legs. And we saw what John Fox is. It's about time Kevin Warren takes more, leadership role, and hopefully, George and whoever, the higher ups don't get in his way, because I think it would be an absolute insult to get in the way of, Kevin Warren and whatever he thinks it is necessary to shake up this organization. So, I'm going to pray that, Kevin Warren, is also attending these games more and more. Certainly, his attention shouldn't be just focused on, the stadium 100%, because, you still have to have, sponsors. You still have to, talk to politicians and business leaders, and, they're going to bring it up for sure. The Bears aren't doing so well. And, that's going to have to be like an embarrassing sticking point, in the eyes of, Kevin Warren. And speaking of embarrassment, I'm going to try and close this out. So I really appreciate you, staying on with me tonight, Rashab, under a very, very difficult situation. Former Bear Martellus Bennett went off on Twitter about yesterday's loss, and you probably saw, Martellus's Twitter yesterday, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I saw the whole tweet. Yep.
Yeah, and that was also read on Waddle and Silby this afternoon, and I'm going to try and pull a clip of what he said yesterday on him going off on the Bears. And you have to agree with what Martellus has been saying. We touched on our show last week about, Roquan Smith in an interview with Albert Breer of Monday Morning QB on SI about how he is so happy that he left and he's not wasting his prime years playing for the Bears. And, David Montgomery, the ex-Bear who scored a game-winning touchdown, also said something about how happy it is, playing for, finally for a winner up in Detroit. You're going to see more and more, current and former Bear players, like former players who are still active with a different club, and Smith and, Montgomery, and you have a former Bear player who is out of the game, like Martellus Bennett, making a very, very scathing comments about the Bears organization, not just because, for the money or because they weren't paid or anything, but because they know just how frustrating it is to see the Bears continuing to, bungle, the coaching hires, and, that, drafting wrong, people, and then putting wrong people in charge, i.e. Ted Phillips, among others. And I want your take on what Martellus had to say about the Bears on his Twitter yesterday. And are you concerned about this perception that the Bears are having right now, and it's becoming more and more, out there?
No, I'm actually not. I mean, I'm concerned about it, but I'm actually happy that people are speaking about it. Like, I'm happy that former players are speaking about it and making it public, because the more media pressure on George McCaskey, on the ownership, on Ryan Poles, on Kevin Warren, the better, because it makes them realize that change has to happen really fast. And obviously, like I've said on the show, like in my own YouTube channels, that I love the direction that Ryan Poles is taking this roster in for the future. But if you look at the past and even like this year, like the results have not been there at all. And everything Martellus Bennett is saying here is completely true, because our fan base still talks about 1985, which is more than like 40 years ago now at this point, almost 40 years ago. And we still even talk about 2018, the 2018 Bears, which did not even win a single playoff game. So he's totally right that this whole brand is built on selling the past. And I know at the end he also said that the new Chicago probably lacks all connection with the Bears of today. The youth of Chicago favorite team probably isn't even the Bears. And that's kind of true too, to some extent, which really sucks. Like even me growing up, like I grew up, in the 2010s basically. And, there's a lot of people in my schools that were not Chicago Bears fans. Like, there were Packers fans and like fans of other teams, because I mean, I asked them why, and they were like, because the Bears suck. And that was true. Like, during the 2010s, the Bears completely sucked. So a lot of kids growing up in Chicago did not even become Bears fans. So it's truly sad that this is what it's come to. And I do hope that eventually Ryan Poles does get this thing where it needs to be. And I think he can, right, if he makes the right decision at head coach and potentially a quarterback, if we move on from Justin Fields or keep Justin Fields. Hopefully he makes the right decision there. But it is very concerning that right now the Bears are known to be a franchise of losers, and until we win, that's always going to be this. That's going to be the case.
Right. It is becoming somewhat of a disturbing trend. And, I do worry that, if even, Justin Fields is run out of town, and there's legitimate, reasons to believe that Ryan Poles and, Matt Eberflus are in cahoots to try and run him out of town and try to save their own jobs by drafting a rookie quarterback, which obviously another same mistake that Ryan Pace did with Mitchell Trubisky and Justin Fields, only to have the coaches fired the very next year. So, I hope that those are the disturbing trends that Kevin Warren sees with this organization in terms of how they develop their quarterbacks and everything. And certainly what Martellus Bennett tweeted yesterday really resonates with the a lot of people in Chicago, because let's face it, right now the sports scene in Chicago, the state of sports in Chicago is just a disaster. The White Sox sucks, the Bulls are in the turmoil. The Blackhawks, at least they have Connor Bedard, but their rebuild is still very, very, very long ways. And, the only team that is, really, really that have high hopes are the Cubs. There have been talks of Shohei Ohtani being, linked to the Cubs, and the Cubs are, a serious contender, even though they have to perhaps, go up against, Los Angeles Dodgers and, maybe several West Coast teams that are, certainly warm weather and have more Asian populations. But at least the Cubs are dead serious right now. And they certainly, send a clear message. They fired David Ross, as cold-hearted as it is, and hired Craig Counsell away from Milwaukee, who is possibly, the top 3 baseball managers, and send a message. We're serious, and in that sense, maybe Kevin Warren and Ryan Poles, they need to probably do something similar to re-energize the fan base, and also the players who are, tired of hearing Matt Eberflus talk about executions, and when they are the ones who are supposed to, lead, to be a leader of the man and help them out. But, we hear the same old thing like a broken record. So, this is a very, very important, off season for the Bears. We know that the Bears have, number 1 pick as of right now, thanks to the Carolina trade. And they probably may have another top 5 pick of their own if this continues, or maybe top 3 at this rate. So, having those picks certainly, makes you maybe, somewhat more enticing. And if Justin Fields balls out, despite the coaching malpractice we saw today, I don't see how, why many coaches wouldn't be interested in talking to Chicago, as a, become a coaching candidate, provided that the Bears do the right thing and let go the entire coaching staff once the season is over. So Rashad, I'm going to give you a final word on closing out the where the Bears are, and what the Martellus Bennett's tweet, how it resonates with us frustrated Bears fans right now.
Yeah, I mean, I do want to talk about the coaching job, like you mentioned. Like the Bears right now probably are a top 2 coaching job potential opening in the NFL. Like the only job I think could be more enticing is maybe the Chargers, because the Chargers have Justin Herbert, an already established quarterback. But aside from that, like the Bears should be the number 1 job the head coaches are flocking to, because we have the 2 top 10 picks. We have so much in cap space. It's a young team, and Chicago is a big market. If you win here, you'll be known as a legend. So yeah, I mean, I hope we finally do hire the right head coach. And regarding Martellus Bennett's comments, again, like they're completely true. And I'm sure that almost every former player of this organization kind of feels the same way. They just aren't showing it or sharing it outright because, they don't want to. And maybe they don't want to attack the Bears. But I know Martellus Bennett is a very straightforward individual. Like he says what's on his mind. And this is what's on his mind, and I'm sure it's on the mind of many former Bears players as well. And it's really a shame that one of the, founding franchises of the NFL has gotten this low. But all you can really hope for as Bears fans is that one day it changes, and hopefully that's sometime in the near future.
Right. Again, they have 6 games left, and it all starts next Monday once again up in the Vikings in Minnesota. Quick prediction: I don't expect a Bears victory, but I want to see once again Justin Fields ball out. I'm sure that the what happened in his last match with the Vikings, where he suffered a torn thumb, will weigh heavily. I'm sure he wants to continue to do well regardless of what the coaches have to say. He has to basically ball out. And I think, you probably start to, see a change in the dynamics about maybe it's the Bears coaching staff who have to save their own asses now rather than Justin Fields, who has to save his own career. So I'm glad that the world maybe is finally starting to see that Matt Eberflus is indeed the major problem, and it's not Justin Fields himself. But as long as he continues to play well, I expect the Vikings defense to be more of a an upgrade and a challenge, with all due respect to compared to the Lions defense this week. So, it will be interesting to see how many design runs they can successfully run against them. I'm sure they're going to be very, very careful with his runs, and maybe set the edge and maybe try and make him beat in the pocket more so. Which probably, if he does very well, throwing from the pocket, with the Danielle Hunters of the world attacking, I think that's going to be a very, very encouraging sign. So at this point, I just want to see Justin ball out. Wins and losses really don't matter to me. Of course, it's great that Bears win, even if it affects their, draft, status, at least of their own pick. But, that's what I want to see, moving forward, Rashad.
Yeah, same here. I think that's the only thing, hope for at this point. Obviously, the Bears don't have any playoff chance, being at 3-8. So, yeah, I mean, I would like to see a Bears win still, because I do want Justin Fields and the players to, experience the feeling of a win. They work so hard and they rarely get to enjoy a win. So, obviously, I do hope the Bears win. But like you mentioned, the Vikings have really solid defense that gave Justin Fields trouble last time. So I'm just really looking to see if Justin Fields can improve off his bad performance against the Vikings in the last game. And if he can and have another good performance like he did against the Lions, then at that point, you really have to start considering the Bears might have to trade the number 1 pick and not select a quarterback. if he can repeat that good performance. But just like you, like I'm not going to predict the Bears win. If I had to give a guess, I'd probably say like I do think it's going to be pretty close though, because our team actually is playing pretty well now, right? Like we can match up against the Vikings right now, especially without Kirk Cousins, and Justin Jefferson also might not be playing. According to Adam Schefter, said that's more likely that Jefferson returns for week 14. So score prediction, I'd say Vikings win 23-20. I think it's going to be a very, very, very close game.
I think the Vikings offense will probably do more than enough because the Bears defense unfortunately can't tackle, and they still probably going to give up a lot of third down conversions to TJ Hawkinson. I'm going to say maybe 27-20 Vikings in that sense. So I forgot to touch about the Ian Rappaport's report about how polls have to be blown away to pick the quarterback in 2024. Certainly, I think what we saw yesterday was an encouraging sign. I'm sure polls would rather continue to build around Justin Fields, and then rather than putting his own reputation on a young, unproven quarterback like Drake May and Caleb Williams, neither one of which I saw on Saturday and was not really all that impressive because both ended up losing badly. But again, it's hard to judge on one game, and certainly it's hard to judge just on one game on Justin Fields. But what we saw was very, very encouraging, and Rashab and I will talk hopefully next Tuesday, Thanksgiving, post Thanksgiving, excuse me, and talk about the game. Obviously, Monday, both of us are probably going to be watching the game, intensely, and then hopefully we'll have something good to talk about in the next week whenever either one of us is available to do the next live stream. Rashab, listen, thanks for your time. I know you had had to go to a dentist today and had to fight through, so I really, really appreciate that. And you can see on the bottom scroll screen, he has his own YouTube channel, The Windy City Productions. If you want to follow a Bears YouTuber, go follow Rashab's work. It is an amazing content, and you should definitely give him a follow. I am also an online contributor for the BearGogglesOn.com, which is part of the Fansided Network. I'm going to be writing some content about yesterday's game and my thoughts, certainly entering the next week's contest against the Minnesota Vikings. Rashab, have a wonderful evening, and more importantly, I hope you and your family have a wonderful Thanksgiving.
Thank you. You as well.
And we thank you for watching, and we hope to see you on our next broadcast. And we wish you and your family a wonderful Thanksgiving. Good night, everybody.